Hey, Sonia, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Cool. How are you?
Tired, 'cause it's 9:30 right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well,
That's,
I'm in Eastern time zone right now, but
oh, right. Okay, even further. Yeah, that's 3 hours. Yeah.
yeah, I was just like thinking about how I have a class that basically ends at midnight.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good thing we don't have the later one because there's also a 8:30 to 10:30 class at
Holy
our.
shit, that would be 11:30 to 1:30 in
Yep.
the morning. Oh
Yep.
my god.
Yep. Yeah, and there was a student I had who was in Florida. He had a really hard time
Oh
getting
yeah.
there, so I was like, you don't need to, man. Just do it. Just listen to the recording or whatever. Um, so in that case, why don't we just get started, and then I guess if you get tired or something, you can just head off.
Okay.
Because I'll record this, but I don't, I mean, if we talk about what we need to now to get out of the way for you, um, that'll probably be good. I'm most concerned about just again how things are going with the teams and what you're working on and
Well,
what you might
so
need
they're
help with.
just kind of perfecting a bunch of their scripts right now, and they've been updating with GIFs of their progress and everything. And the main thing that we're trying to tackle is the booth because they're all really interested in wanting to do a booth at Phoenix Comic Con. And I guess Roger has already drafted out ideas for everything that he wants to do. So,
Okay. They need to make sure to pay for that, so I can make sure that they have a
yeah,
spot.
we talked about it. We're all going to split it. Um, as far as I was thinking about just sending them some PayPal, um, money through PayPal, and then yeah, we need to figure out a split, obviously, so we can get you that money. But yeah, sorry, I'm like out of it right now.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah. Cool. As long as they do that.
Yeah, but did find out that they're still planning on releasing on Steam, and Adam and I are trying to get them to release on other platforms like itch.io, Green Man Games, and whatnot. So
Okay. Very cool.
yeah.
And what's the timeline for that?
The timeline they want to launch by the end of the year. That's about what I know.
Okay.
No
So,
like official date.
do you have any idea? Did they mention if they want to do green light again or not, or what they're planning on that side?
Um, well, so when is Steam? I guess I need to double check and see what is the deal with Green Light
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant
because
I meant I meant UAT. Sorry, I meant back in the studio
oh
to be pitched back into the studio or not.
oh I actually have no idea about that because I don't know what do they have to do for UAT?
They have to pitch it again on the 28th of April,
Okay,
and I just wanted to know
all right,
like if they were looking to come back for the summer or not. Um,
okay. I can ask them right now.
okay.
All right, I just went ahead and posted that in the Discord chat or asked them in the Discord chat. So we'll see who's on right now and able to answer.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. See what they say.
And I'll let you know
Okay.
how that is.
Because I'm trying to we're trying to organize that, put that together, and also trying to figure out who's gonna come back for the summer or not, who's gonna pitch that's new for the summer,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. Okay, so then what else needs to be worked on?
Right now, they just need to kind of do a bunch of fine tuning. They're like each week they're kind of like adjusting their script. Like I've mainly been paying attention to what the programmers have been doing because, yeah, that's that's my area of expertise and that's the one area I can at least give advice to. But yeah, they were talking about issues with rigid bodies. Um, so they kind of need to work on collision stuff
Okay.
in the programming realm. Um, let's see, as far as graphics and designers go, oh, did I just get a response? Okay. Yeah, they are planning on doing a pitch again on April 28th for that.
Okay. And then is that? I think that's their last one then, right? They wanted to then just take it out of the school and then work on it for fall on their own, or are they going to pitch it for that too? See what they say.
I am. But the artists have been working on a bunch of materials right now, and they have a bunch of like great concepts for the cockatrice. So, and it's looking really cool. What they've posted, like it looks very detailed. So I'm kind of like, I guess the one thing that concerns me is like whether or not they're able to simulate the feathers on the cockatrice that they have concepted out.
Oh, right. Okay.
So,
That makes sense. Does it look really complicated or?
well, I mean, I don't know how to like send this to you, but is there a way to attach screenshots in this?
What's that?
Is there a way to attach screenshots in this?
Yeah, there is. Um, I just have never done it. Let's see. Might have to like start it and then share it with you or something. Let's see what I can
I have a different idea.
do. Yeah.
Okay, if I like sent you, I don't know if Discord will actually allow me to share the external link to this, but we'll see.
Hey, Lynn.
It's a beefy URL,
Oh yeah.
but if it works, it works.
Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, there we go.
Cool, it worked.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, so those are the concepts for the cockatrice, and um,
They're all slightly different. So is there one that they're gonna go
yeah.
with, or
Well, one of them said that they like the chicken.
the top one?
Yeah, I would assume that's the chicken one because like they obviously all look like chickens.
Yeah, it's a cockroaches.
Yeah, so
Okay. Okay. Hey, Lynn. So can you hear us? Yeah, you sound like you're at the far end of a tunnel, though.
I didn't even know she was talking.
How about that?
Hey, way
That better?
better.
That's a lot better.
Yeah. Did you run? You ran up closer to the computer instead of hanging out at the
No,
far end of the tunnel?
I had to adjust my mic. It's still on the back of my head.
Oh, I see. Cool.
Yeah.
So Saudi was just sharing what the team Morpheus is up to, and they are interested still in getting to Comic-Con. I told them they need to reserve their spot soon, and then she also confirmed with them that they are planning on pitching again for the summer studio class.
Okay. All right.
I've asked her to check if they're thinking about doing the fall one as well, so we have an idea. Because apparently they want to launch the game onto Steam or into the market at the end of the year.
Well, if they keep going at the rate they're going, they're making good show every milestone. So certainly we want to support that.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to figure out, like if they're doing fall or not. What would be the deadline for fall?
For going into production in the
Well,
fall?
for like their pitch for the fall.
It'd be at the end of the summer term.
Okay.
So the final week of that, we'll do another pitch.
Yeah. They need to get their information into me soon. We're gonna actually do an all call for Friday, see who's planning on it at this point and who's not.
So, I mean, if you're talking to them now, just tell them to send Lynn something ASAP.
What?
If you're talking to the team now, you could tell them
Okay,
to send
so
Lynn something ASAP for the summer. Or sorry, for
their leader.
summer.
All
Yeah.
right, so their leader, Roger, plans on doing it for 3 more semesters.
Plans on doing it for all 3 semesters.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good.
And
Yeah.
what? Sorry, I'm out of it. What does Lynn need right now, or well soon?
Oh, I just need to know yay or nay if they're planning on that, and then I'll add them to my email list, send out notices and requirements for the green light coming up here at week 15. But you've got one more milestone in between there, which is going to help us determine the velocity, the progress that you guys are making. That is a big key in helping us determine whether you're on track and it's worth the investment to greenlight you again.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's good to know.
Yep.
Morpheus is making a good show.
Yep. That's excellent. I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to know on that side, Lynn, for Morpheus? Or?
No, no, not at this time. I just need to add them to the list. Going forward, there'll be more asks, but at this point, no.
Yeah. I mean, or I don't know if you caught what we were talking about, but I posted like that big beefy URL that I posted in the chat. That is their concept art for their cockatrice, and it looks great. Like all 3 of the concepts that they proposed. But my biggest concern, and I told Ben about this, would be the feather simulations and whether or not that would be like a little bit out of scope.
So not at all. There's a number of different ways that they can handle feathers.
Okay.
So depending on what their investment needs to be for that character, and that is how that character is going to be used, how close he is to the rendering camera, and so on, then they can determine how to handle the feathers. But it can be as easy as an alpha channel on a texture if they want it to be. But your art lead is well aware of all that. Harlan
Okay.
is an experienced, he's an experienced artist, 2D and 3D.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Rachel is actually handling the cockatrice, and she's looking into it.
Okay, tell her to get with Harlan and make sure that she's on track with what the team wants her to do.
How do you spell Harlan?
Harlan.
Oh, I thought it was L-E-N. I was close. Okay.
Yeah. He's still coming out on Fridays, correct? Well, he's got his event going on, but he's still building on Fridays with the team, isn't he? I
Yeah.
didn't see him out there last week.
Yeah, I didn't see him either. I also didn't see Roger, so I don't know if they were working off site or what, but I saw him
Yeah,
the week
Roger
before
was
that.
out. Yeah, yeah, Roger's supposed to be back this week, so get with
Mm.
him on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, cool character. Looks a little different style than some of your other characters. Did you notice? So that's why I want her to work closely with Harlan.
Yeah.
Make sure that she is integrating that style, doing style match.
Okay. Alright, I went ahead and relayed that to her.
Cool. Very good. And so how's your stuff coming along, Lynn?
Yeah.
I mean, we just spoke about it yesterday, but
Right. Well, yeah, it's about alignment at this point and getting the core in there. So the list, the mind map is huge, and you're kind of getting an impression of where we want, what direction we want to go. It's going to be done in phases, of course. So we, you and I, need to get together on that primary core list, and like we talked about, just prioritize that so that we can uh, get it all in as quickly as possible. This core. And then we need to distribute that out to the rest of the shells that are involved and make sure all of the rubrics and everything are up to date. As soon as the foundation is solid, then we can start building on that. But until then, it's not worth building on if we are stumbling over the little things that are causing distress in the teams.
hmm.
And I talked a little bit about this to Allie because they're trying to figure out my course load
Mm-hmm.
for the upcoming semester. And so I talked with her a little bit about what it is that we're trying to do. Of course, nobody really knows what we're doing or the extent of it. So and that's a good thing on some levels.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so just let her know that this is kind of what we're building. I pointed it out, and so she's on it now. She's going to read through it, and so she fully
Oh, cool.
understands and can confidently put that on my load for the summer. And I think that that's going to be a huge thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if they're
Yeah.
so invested in it, or they want to be, I mean, it only makes sense.
Sometimes you need to get it on board
Right.
to just show them how important it is.
Right.
And that was my goal for the studio shell. And so now they understand the importance of having that and the benefit of that, then they can get behind it. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully that'll happen in the summer.
Great.
That'll be good.
That'd be really good.
Yeah. What would be better is these remaining classes that I have. If you're teaching those, you can go ahead and we could talk about how that feeds into my GSIP and how you
Yeah.
are supporting the GSIP process through your courses
Yeah.
so that I can work on that too.
Yeah, although I don't know what I'm teaching for the summer because the ones that she showed me actually weren't game courses. They were like I don't know, maybe you haven't, but I think it's for the other masters. They were more like startup kind of entrepreneur classes that Dave teaches.
Yeah, which isn't going to do me a lot of
I don't think
good
they're.
at this point.
I don't think you're even in those. So I don't know.
Oh, good. Oh, okay.
I don't think they're in yet.
Um, would would it be a problem if I asked her to swap your classes out for
Well,
game related courses?
no, hold on. Okay, I don't know what they're doing, but as it stands right now, like those yesterday were maybes, so I don't even know if I'm getting those. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
And
All
then
right. So
what I do have, like, so today she sent me. the list of classes for me for the summer, and all I have are the studio classes. That's it.
Okay, so I should ask you this way. If I can, because she's fully supportive of what we're trying to do, but we also need to, work that into the schedule and make sure that we're fulfilling our requirements there. And so if she's able to do this for us, would you be willing to teach 2 grad courses next semester for game, so that I can continue to work on the G suite if that's what you afford in there?
Well, what I could do, let's put it this way, what I'd be happy to do are like independent studies.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would suffice for my requirements, but we
Hmm.
can check.
Yeah, because
I'm
that's
just
what,
trying to
because
look at my schedule.
I'm trying to keep my summer load light because I might also be gone for July. I might be up in
Oh,
Flagstaff for setting up that lab. So yeah. Plus,
gotcha.
I don't know what they want me to do with the. Again, I don't know what they want me to do with SIP 2.0 and with the incubator. So maybe
The
they'll.
incubator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll.
Oh, is it?
Like if they want me to do something with that, like maybe there's a way that you and I could work together on your thing. Like I don't know.
Talk
If
to
I
me about the incubator. Is that the CoLab or is that UAT Game Studios incubator?
That's the upstairs faculty lounge turned into co-working
Yeah.
space. Yeah, that.
Yeah. What is going on there? I don't know. I know
Still,
they're working toward that.
still fully don't know. We only had one meeting so far, and it was about what do we do with the space. Basically, what do we do to have the fastest wins, kind of thing. So the meeting was kind of odd because it contained a lot of the SIP people. So they started talking a lot about SIP, and then I was talking more about the idea of having an incubator and what we might need for that. Well, actually, not even that. I was just more talking about a co-working space and if you want to get other companies to come in, what do you do? So I don't know exactly anything else. Again, like I said, Dave has just been hinting at it. So I'm curious to see. We'll have another meeting next week, Wednesday.
Next week, Wednesday. I would like to come to
Actually,
that.
no, we should have it this Wednesday. We should have it tomorrow. Yeah, we have it tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. I mean, it's me and Craig, and it's Craig, myself, Mark, and um, Natasha
Okay.
and Dave.
Hmm.
So I
Okay.
mean, I don't want you to like waste your time in there or anything. So maybe because the first one was like a feel it out kind of thing, and now we might talk about a little bit more substance. So I'm happy to just relay that with you,
Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that.
and
I
then
don't like meetings, as you know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's your that's your thrill, not mine.
No, it's not my thrill.
Okay. So I didn't capture that. Is that kind of something that might go on your course list as
It
an
might go.
item?
Well, it might go on my workload. Well, I don't know about course list. I think they're trying to like get me, as I understood, they're trying to get me away from teaching so much and more towards like running that, so to speak. That's what I'm.
Really?
That's what I'm feeling. Yeah.
I'm jealous all of a sudden.
Yeah, because Dave was framing it again in the way that they had originally brought me on board. Remember, which was I not to teach, but I talked to them about doing an incubator, and then they just said, "Why don't you
Yeah.
teach?" Right, and so and my
Well, that's
my reviews are
that's
worse
a
than
good
yours,
thing about
so
you. Oh.
I'm too much of a hard
Well,
ass,
that's good to know.
right, Sadia?
Well, that's.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot Sadia's on.
Wow.
This isn't a private conversation, is it? Just kidding, Sadia. Um,
No,
no, that was just strong suit coming in. So of course, that's hopefully gonna be the way that they utilize you, because you've been building your contacts and your events and all of that over time here. So it's gonna start paying off for you. So as much as the UAT Game Studios can benefit from that, the better.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I got a class.
I'd like to keep doing the. Well, I'd like to keep doing the studios. I think they have that in mind. It's just like it's just like other classes like game testing or design stuff and so on that and I think also
Yeah,
they're
you don't want to do that anyway.
right, exactly, so that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think they're also having some issues with like the whole fact that grad instructors are going to start to have PhDs, and I don't. So I think they're kind of thinking like, okay, well, if he's not teaching those, what are we going to have him do, kind of thing.
Jeez, who does that leave to teach those though?
Like nobody. Maybe Natasha and maybe Hugh if he ever gets his.
Oh, all right, Hugh. Okay.
Maybe. I mean, once
Well,
he
that
gets it.
makes sense. Yeah, I think he'd be. I think he'd be a good fit for that too. Sure. Um. Hmm. Interesting.
Right.
Well, what can I do to support you in that?
Oh, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Well, all right. So back to the question that you gave me is how are we doing with our progress? And that is the next step is definitely integrating. Now that I have your buy-in and I'm sure of that, we can go ahead and align 281, 381, 481. And that includes rubrics. It includes all of what we're doing and supposed to be doing. As quickly as I can get that in there, we'll do it. So what I'm going to be doing here is, well, we talked about it, but just to recap, is um, that that core list of things that we need to get into that shell, and then prioritizing those, and then doing as much as possible of that in the remaining semester here. And do you hear that cat?
Yeah.
So crazy. All right, so and then hopefully get something in place for the summer so I have time to continue to work on it rather than having to drop it again because of classes. So, yeah, that's where it's at.
Okay.
We can't make major changes in the structure of what it is that we're doing as far as rubrics go this semester, but we can make some changes to how we're doing and what we're doing through the shell. And I think working with the experienced leads, and now that the grads are in there working with the leads, all of that feedback, generating as much of the feedback as possible and getting that implemented is going to be important as it pertains to the core.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Any other questions for me on that? You want to know, of course, what's on the list, and I'll get that to you as soon as I can.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think because I think
so
it all.
What I'm going to do is pull out the mind maps and all of the other stuff I've generated so far, and create that list first thing.
Okay, cool. Because I think it'll all tie into even the stuff that they want me to do, like with SIP or incubator and stuff like that too. Like, if there's a streamlined pipeline, like especially from the student side, that's what I'm looking at from the student side. I see there's two components. One is you can have outside companies come in and work in the space. Fine.
You keep cutting out.
Sorry.
Wait, backtrack because you cut out.
Is this better now? Am I still cutting?
Yeah.
Weird.
You're still cutting out a little bit.
Okay, how about now? Still?
You're good.
So I was saying is I want to have like I see two components. One with the co-working space, having outside companies come in and work in there, which is great and all, but they'll just be doing their thing, and then they can take advantage of being in proximity to students. And then the other part of it is having student teams that basically show their worth to get to a point where then the university kind of invests in them. They would then also work out of that space. And to get up to that point, though, there's a lot of trials along the way. And I think, especially for the games side of things, the game studios is definitely the biggest trial to get them to that place. Now, there's going to be.
Oh, cut out again.
So.
Rewind.
You're cutting out again.
Okay.
Okay, rewind. So
let's try this.
Getting them to the studios, that's the last thing I heard.
Yeah, so getting them through the studio to then, will be one of the biggest kind of challenges or biggest testing beds to then put them into the new the like co-working space, or then they could possibly work with outside companies and so on. But at that point, UAT is investing them in them one way or another, either through cash or in kind or whatever. Um,
So they're becoming the actual incubator in that level up studio that we've been talking about.
correct.
That well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
elated.
Yeah. So that's why I say whatever you've been working on already, all the things we've talked about, all the things we've built so far will feed right into that. And on top of that, I think what was going to happen is, they're obviously going to want to have students not just from games in there moving up those so-called ranks, but also students from across the university. So we're going to be looking for a model to place across the university. I mean, the only other person that's kind of has anything going on is Paul. So, I see what you're doing as instrumental on a lot of different levels. And that's why I'm saying, let me know what it is now that you need, because in the conversations I have with them, I can factor that in. And if it's like a top-down thing as well, where, we're asking from the bottom up, but if I'm having these meetings with Dave and so on, and we say, this is where we want to go, these are the things that we've already created, and here's already a little bit of a pipeline, or these are already some asks because Lynn has been working on this. I think that'll just help our cause.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I love the fact that you're involved at that level, and you've got, of course, the collab, and you've been building that, and you can relay that, and that's the whole goal there. That's what I thought when you came in. Those are your valuable assets coming in. But as you know, for what 6, 7 years, I've been working on this, and all of this is in the original pitch that I gave to Dave. So I don't know if he still has it all, but that's why I'd like to still be involved, on some level, because I've got a high stake in this, as you know, blood, sweat, and tears over that many years. And not that I want the they're calling it UAT Game Studios, but it shouldn't be. They really need to grab the name UAT Studios and be more generic in their approach, because then whether it's the UAT Game Studios or the UAT, Paul's Gig, um, Media Studio, whatever you want to call that, then those all sit as sub companies, right? They're sub developers under the umbrella of the UAT Studios. And so that's what that facility needs to be named. That experience, that incubator, if you will, should be UAT Studios
Hmm.
and not Game Studios. I understand
Yeah.
why they grabbed the name, because that's what we're pushing out there.
Yeah, well, that's what we
And
are
a
doing
better
for games.
promotion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should even be something like, UAT stars, or something like that. Like it's a separate thing. Like in ASU, it's like Venture Devils, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to have like a Tech Stars or Y Combinator, kind of like a higher, like more all inclusive kind of take on that. So it would be a different entity. So UAT Game Studios could feed into that, or could be
Yes.
a subcontractor of it, stuff like that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. But UAT Game Studios, I mean, that's the name we've been using for a while for the undergrad component. And though it's a standing studio, it's not a simulation by any means. And they have the LLC name on that. And we're building out that sort of hybrid incubator in the shell, in some of the other components that we're putting out there. It's still an undergrad, component. And once they graduate from that experience, then they can go into the larger venture there, the incubator.
Yep.
Shouldn't be, I don't know, shouldn't be called the game studio though, because we do need
No.
to encompass all of what we do.
Yeah, no, it won't be called the game studio. I mean, like I say, it'll be like the UAT incubator or whatever. I mean, we have to come up with some snazzy name, but whatever. Um,
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Um, yes, I I would like to share the mind map for that original pitch, because there's still a lot of valuable stuff there. And now that I get to hopefully put the studio shell on my list of things to do and actually get time to do it, I think um, it's gonna be it's gonna be great. I haven't shared the plan for it yet because it's still sort of under development, and now I'm using it as a GSIPs just so I can get through these requirements. So a little time allocated to it, but it includes a lot more than just finishing off the development of the UAT game studios. It now includes a broader scope curriculum delivery plan, which I think is going to push us into the future.
Hmm.
There are now other schools trying to do what we do, and so we need to stay out ahead of them. And I think that this new curriculum delivery plan will do that for us. We just
Hmm.
need time to develop it.
Hmm.
It's not going to have any impact really on that separate component, the UAT studios or whatever you plan to call it, but it is going to have a huge impact on we how we educate students and how
Yeah.
quickly they can get there and be pushed out into the professional world.
Well, that's why I think it actually will have a big impact because, so like I mentioned, most of the other people in the conversation are SIP people, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Mark and Natasha and Craig are the other ones, and they're very much concerned with SIP. So that's why the conversation we had, not this last Wednesday, not last week Wednesday, but the week before that was, it was the first time that we sat down for it, and they all came into it with this like, understanding that they were doing something new with SIP and that there's an opportunity to rework SIP or to add to it or whatever. And I was saying, that's great and all, but there are other things to think about outside of UAT. Like I said, bringing other companies in and so on. So what that makes me feel is that they're seeing this like again this progression of student projects to then become ventures as also part of that the SIP experience, because that's the only other way so far that we do this outside of the UAT Game Studios and Paul's thing is through SIP for the other, so there so that part of it to me is about the student experience and what they're learning and how they leave the school with what do they leave the school with. So there is a really tight component in that and how we teach them, because we also want to make it so it's not too foreign when they keep moving forward and out of the school and then into those experiences. Like they should line up and launch right into each other if you are successfully hitting milestones.
Exactly. Which really pulls it back to exactly what we need to do there. And I've been planting seeds with Natasha. I haven't talked to the other two, Craig and I used to talk about SIP and how to align that, but it's been a long time. Mark, I haven't had a chance to talk to you at all about any of that, but with GSIP, I was asked, well, how would you align this like the UAT Game Studios? And it's a no-brainer. There's a formula, a very easy formula for doing that. And so I started planting seeds with Natasha and giving her ideas. And I think that is the value maybe of having me contribute to your conversations there, is that for the most part we're dealing with educators and we're in that space, and but I don't know how much retail or business experience and outlook any of those folks have. Mark probably has more than others. I would assume. I don't know him that well, but there's a very big difference in the way that people view what it is that we need to do with a space like that based on their knowledge, their experience. So what I'm finding is the same thing when I talk to people, is that you either have a very academic approach to what we should do with that area, or you have a very business um, oriented view of that. And I think that it includes both, just like you said. But I think that there needs to be an evaluation process, a gateway, if you will, into that space that is common. They all have to generate enough, um, well, yeah, enough product, enough confidence to show that they're going to be successful in a space, because we're investing in them. At that point, the table turns, right? They're not investing in their education any longer. We are, in turn, now investing in their profession. And so it needs to be looked at business wise in a very different way.
Hmm.
So this is what we are going to give to you. this is what we expect at various milestones, but before you even get in here, you have to process, you have to pass this gateway inspection. It's just the same thing we do, like green light. You have to meet a certain bar and level of promise before you enter into that investment.
Right.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's it.
just agreeing with you.
Lol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
No, but you know how interested I am in things like that, and I certainly would love to be a part of that. It's kind of like something that's been on my mind for a very long time. I'd love to
Hmm.
have some conversation into that.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. And I
I don't
mean,
have time for it, but
well, we'll get there.
want to have some input if that's worthy to anybody there. So
Yeah. Well, I've been reading a book right now about time management, and one of the things talked about was, first of all, prefaced with time management is a fallacy because you can't actually manage time. Time just keeps going on and on and on, right?
right.
Um, so it ends up becoming like prioritization, right? So
Yeah.
prioritizing your things, but then even that is limiting because that still only have so much time in the day, and things are important, and so that all you're doing is just you're just working on the things that you feel are important at that time, but other stuff will end up falling off no matter what, right? So we see that a lot when it's like, oh, I want to make sure I exercise, plus I do homework, plus I hang out with family, plus I do, but then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, all of a sudden I notice that my, my hang out with friends is no longer there. So you're like, oh, I'm going to make an emphasis to hang out with friends. So you do that, and then eventually something gets pushed off again, right? So talking about how in the end all you're doing is juggling, and it's juggling tasks. So the only way you can get better is by doing either juggling more or juggling faster. So then he says you're basically a hamster you're on a hamster wheel juggling a whole bunch of balls really fast, which there's only two things you can do: either keep doing it or fall and crash, right?
I
Uh,
love that.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, so we're basically hamsters juggling on our way to crashing. But he says there's
Yeah.
another way to do it, or another way to start thinking about it, and that's to start thinking about significance. And so not only do you just think about importance and urgency, right? Because a lot of time we're like, this is important. This, you prioritize by this is important and it's urgent. But ultimately, you want to get to a point where you're prioritizing by this is important but not urgent, because that's how you start creating real things and real value. And so significance is a big part in that, where you look at something for the long term. And so the examples he gave was you could either with your business, say you want to increase customer loyalty or customer interactions, right? So have better customer interactions. And so one thing you could do is either sit down, spend a good chunk of time for multiple times or whatever, how long it takes you to create a training plan for all of your employees to interact with customers so that there's an excellent customer interaction every time that they interact. Or B, you could spend your time now and jump on and start answering start interacting with the customers yourself and make sure that they have an excellent interaction. Now, obviously that B one is limited by time, right? You're only going to get so many, even if because eventually you're going to say, oh, I can't hit all of the customers, so I'm just going to take the ones that are the most important or the highest grossing or whatever, or highest revenue or whatever, but again, you're still limiting yourself. So it's much better to do the long-term, more significant action, which is to train people to do that at a better level. And I think that's kind of a similar thing when I look at this. It's like, yeah, we can keep working with students now on a day-to-day basis and try to like make sure that they feel good when they go through the course and that they pass it. But ultimately, we're not getting where we want to as far as the significance side of things, where if we sit down and we really nail down what is this going to look like so that in the future every student who goes through it without us being there, or at least that there's more structure so that they can go through it and we know what's happening every time, or say we leave and they want to hire another instructor on to do the same thing, like there's a continuation of that excellence, right? And I think that's much more
Yeah. Good
important.
luck with
Well,
that.
but I think that's what they want to do, like with me, with the
Yeah.
SIP and the stuff in the summer, or with the incubator or whatever you have. And I think that's what your argument needs to be to Allie. And I think, I think we kind of implicitly talked about that in that way yesterday with her. Like I think she understood that concept, right? Of like, give Lynn some time to nail this down, because it's not just about taking Lynn away from teaching. It's about having a significant impact on the duration of having a great course, and then building on top of that. Otherwise, we're just
Right.
constantly treading in the same pool. We're not like actually growing this thing.
And yeah, I mean, it is exactly how you describe. I love that analogy. For me, I say put out fires. I'm constantly putting out fires,
Yeah, right.
and I never actually get to the the forest fire that's causing. You got to build a good shell in order for it to not be trouble to the students. Because I'll tell you, if you have one thing out of place, sometimes it can cause hours and hours worth of time just to get those students back on track and feeling confident in what you're doing for them. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for taking what was in your book and actually verbalizing that to me.
Rather than having you read it.
Yes. If I had audiobooks, that would be perfect.
Yeah, well, they do have those, and actually, that one might be an audiobook.
Good. Give me the link. Oh, that's one of those things that fell off the side. Reading.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. We are instructors of technology. And for us to stay on top of our game and be effective, we really have to be absorbing everything that we can
Right.
constantly.
Right. Which is why you need to stop just putting out fires. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why.
So,
That's why things like, I mean, I was kind of ticked off about this whole data side of things, and looking at it, how often, how many minutes are we in the shell, for example. My
yeah.
my whole goal is to have as few amount of minutes in the shell. That's my goal. So I'm always going to be pushing for that. I mean, I want to have the most impact with the least amount, because otherwise I'm just wasting time spinning my wheels in there. So it doesn't make
Right.
sense to judge on those aspects. There are better things to judge on.
And if they actually had an ability to monitor the amount of time that we spent mentoring students one on one, then we would far exceed, I'm sure, a lot of
Oh yeah,
other.
yeah,
So
yeah. The shell
we're
isn't the
being
only
evaluated.
place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's classroom. There's
So,
outside of classroom hallway. There's email. There's, you know, whatever else you communicate with the students with. I mean, there's plenty of other ways to do that.
yeah, but in that vein, we've got people who just keep stats, and those stats are the things that are reporting agents up upstairs in administration, and that's all they have to look at, and they don't take the time to talk to the folks, and that's all they know about us. In the same respect, when it comes to our shells, the reporting is very important, and so we want to set that up so they have to spend as little time there as possible reporting and being graded, because really the evaluation comes one on one, and mostly from a peer level as they're working within their teams. Wouldn't you say that's true, Sadia?
Yes.
And so we need to make that of importance and support the leads and that mentoring chain that we establish to make sure that's being done for every single participant and team member. And so that's where we need to probably require more of our leads in their ability to report, but then still keeping it minimal as possible. Leads meetings are an hour out of every Friday. Are there ways that we can look at making that shorter and more informative? So we need to be thinking in terms of how to streamline the system there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they do benefit tremendously from the organization of that system. And I'd hate for it to be I'd hate for anybody to assume it's failing because students are not plugging in their data. You know what I mean? And so if they just are looking at grades and how students evaluating how students are doing in the system based on their grades, that's a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
and that's, that's what we really need to look at is simplifying it, making a space and time where that's what you're required to do before you leave. All those kinds of things, they need to be established based on the level of professionalism that you expect from that student and set up the hierarchy in that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
And master's level students can play a huge role in that. We just need to make sure that they're integrated and able to, not read so many books and then go into the studio and I'm just teasing. Be able to
No idea what you're
to
talking about.
employ what it is they're learning as producers and managers and actually practice those skills at that level in the UAT Game Studio system. So they can also be eyes and ears on their particular projects. The more we break down the structure, the hierarchy of management, and make leads accountable for their mentees, is that a word? Then I think we're going to get better results from the team members, better learning experiences for every level of student, and ultimately a more self-sufficient, streamlined system. Do you agree, Sadia?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I
Um,
Well, to that notion, like, what would have been really helpful would be like kind of like I know I have access to their course materials too, but like I guess what would be kind of even more beneficial would be a little bit more of an integration into that like aspect of their lives, I guess. Um, I don't know. I don't even know if what I just said makes sense. So forget about that. I guess like kind of knowing more or less what some of the deadlines are, um, or like I don't know. I guess
so
making
the
the deadline.
milestones.
I sound like such an idiot. I'm really tired. I'm sorry. I guess like what for this class or for any of like the classes that involve like auditing that UAT Game Studios course. I think like try to make some of the assignments for them like the same as some of the assignments for ours.
Oh, align. Yes,
Yeah, that's the
absolutely.
word. See, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm like
no, that's what I heard is that you're hoping that the requirements are aligning so that you can function more on that level as a manager
yeah,
or producer. Yeah.
because like I'm really trying. I'm like trying to. I inherently try to draw connections between my classes.
Hmm.
And so, like, if I'm taking a marketing course, then I'm just going to assume that, like, okay, I'll be focusing on marketing. And that's like, yeah, I'm basically using, like, the knowledge from one course and applying it to the other. So if it's like a course about marketing, I'll focus on, like, the marketing aspect. If it's a course about, like, I don't know, production, I guess, or programming or whatever, I would probably apply that knowledge in some way to, what I'm doing with Morpheus.
Yeah, and I mean what I'm
Just because,
hearing
like, they're
is
both immediately relevant.
yes. And that's really helpful, isn't it? To
Hmm.
be able to apply what it is you're learning in the moment.
Exactly, because, like, instead of, like, having to flip a switch and be like, oh, right, I'm supposed to be in this mode, like, it just makes the transition a lot easier to kind of just focus
Yes.
on the tasks at hand and not have to, like, I don't know, not have to focus about like the marketing stuff, I guess, or
Yeah.
focusing strictly on the marketing stuff. If yeah,
So there is a design, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this yet or not. Then there is a design for the grad um, classes, the grad program, in the way that a design so that it integrates well with the UAT game studio on the 15-week level. And that's it's basically what it is you describe, where you are you're actually growing and learning in your degree program, which is management and production, but at the various levels that you would typically follow as you progress in your employee life cycle, that would be the way that you progress through the academic life cycle and applying that back to the professional. So it all kind of makes sense and does exactly what you expect it to, where you're progressing with your knowledge and experience and being able to apply that back at the various levels as you progress through your degree program. You're able to apply that knowledge to a live situation, the UAT Game Studio, while you're studying that. Is that does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I love what you just said because it confirms what it is we're hoping
Well,
to
another
do.
thing was also the whole like even when I started working with the teams, like I didn't know, I basically knew nothing about UAT game studios, and like my first course wasn't really like my first course had nothing to do with games, and it was like makerspace in action, and it was a good class. It was a very weird class, but my first course, in addition to like the second one I had, which was online, like those were the two reasons that I moved back, because I was like, I'm not doing anything. Like I don't know like how to get involved with any of the gaming stuff here. And then like when I'm finally moved back, I finally get incorporated into the gaming side of it, and I'm like, oh great, I wish I were back on campus. But right now that's like not feasible. And so, it's just kind of like, I don't know, I wish I had had a better introduction, or like more of an orientation or some kind of like insight into the game studios, because I didn't have that. And if I had had that, I probably would have still been in Tempe.
Mm, okay. What I think is going to make your experience really critical in the feedback loops is that you are offsite. And so what you bring to the table is going to be probably more beneficial to to the design of this integration than
Mm-hmm.
say somebody on campus, because in order to grow our program we need to look outside of Tempe and Arizona,
Right.
and so we need to make it really polished, effective, and integrated for anybody who wants to hop online and participate. And that's true of the undergrad program too. And a big part of that is aligning the course durations
Yeah.
along with the curriculum at the various levels. And so we're moving in that direction very slowly, but we're getting there. At
Mm-hmm.
least we've taken a week to week component out of the shell when we made the migration to Canvas. So that was a big one for me. Oh, that's a good one.
Hmm.
So please take notes. And as you're working through the game degree there, take notes about your off campus experience and what you think would be need to be improved to make it a better experience, because that's going to be invaluable
Okay.
to us. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
That's not a problem. I mean, like, for what it's worth, I was able to get a VFX particle systems specialization major started at Purdue. So that was like, I'm kind of like used to giving people feedback in areas that need feedback and helping get something started.
Fantastic. You're going to be a valuable team member. I appreciate that. So, Mr. Ben, I have to say I'm very excited about the concept of getting that upper level studio started.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Although, again, let's see what actually, what actually happens and how long it's take. These are my slight assumptions based on what I've been told. So,
Okay.
um,
I got a question for you,
mm-hmm.
if I may. I know this is your class, and I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
Just
Whatever.
talking a lot.
That's fine.
um, the how how did that work out for the Phoenix Comic Con? Because I know at one point you were pretty set against doing that. What happened for you that you were able to follow through
Um,
with scheduling?
well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because just today we were talking about how maybe maybe it's not working. Well, so basically, the reason why I decided to continue with it was we had a meeting of because I'm chairman of I'm a co-chair of the Arizona Technology Council or Tech Council,
Hmm. Yeah.
video game industry committee.
Nice.
So we've had 3 meetings so far this year. It kicked off in January, and 2 meetings ago I brought it up to everybody that I don't remember, it was 2 or 3 meetings ago. Anyways, I brought it up to everybody there, saying that we want to do this. However, um, here are the issues that we're having, and so on, especially of getting funding. Um, so we need about 15 grand to really run it well, and I can get about 5 grand just from like signups like Morpheus and stuff like that who are getting booths, but there's still an
Hmm.
extra 10 grand that we need, and um, I brought it up to everybody at the committee meeting, and they all said, no, this has to happen. We thought that last year the event was fantastic. One of them even went so far, Dan from Data Realms, who's like literally been to like I don't know 20 different conventions, had said it was one of the best that they had attended. So that was flattering. Um,
Hmm.
and that they wanted it to happen, and everybody here agreed, even Eline Media and all the everybody. So I said, okay, well, we'll then continue to move forward with this, but I need help then securing sponsorship, and so I created a subcommittee there. Um, and in the meantime, I've been reaching out to try to find sponsors, slower than I'd hoped because it just again it's a time thing, as you as you know. Um,
Hmm.
including I did a bunch of recon and talking to people at Comic Con, or sorry, at GDC. And I got emails and I followed up with a few, but now I just found out yesterday that Unity can't do it, so Unity said no to sponsoring. And then in the meantime, I got an opportunity. Like there was somebody who came out and said that they were going to sponsor potentially between 2,500 and 7,500, and I thought fantastic. Like that'll get me most of the way that I need. And that also literally today just turned into oh no, we're only going to get a table now.
Yeah.
But they are also interested in potentially sponsoring Game Collab and what we do for like a year, to help them get business. But they don't want to put that much money into one event that they're not sure. So they want to start
Hmm.
small and gouge and see how that goes. So I literally had a conversation with Austin today about it, and he's of course it's Austin, so he's again adamant that we not do it if the money doesn't come through. Of course, I've been doing it all these years, even without the money coming through. It's successful,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
it's not financially successful, and it doesn't help us support our time and so on. And after 4 years, I'd like to make it so that it makes sense for us too. So I'm
Sure.
still in the process. I said, I'm not going to call it yet, and I want to push it forward, but I want to also try to put a little bit more push on the committee people and the subcommittee. So I sent another email out today. I want to kind of like, guilt them a bit into this and saying, well, look, you guys wanted this. You said you'd help, so help. Like man up. Um,
So,
so yeah, so I'm kind of in the spot where additionally I think there are some opportunities to make some revenue outside of sponsorship like we've never had before. So, for example, selling merchandise. But the issues with selling merchandise, of course, is always that you have to have upfront cost and buying merchandise to bring with you to sell.
hmm,
Or we do it online, but then you know how it is. People don't walk away with it, so they're not as keen to purchase it. If it's sitting there and it's a T-shirt they can grab or whatever, they're much more likely to do that.
there's
So
a lot less money to be made in merch. Well, okay, I can't say that. If
yeah,
you've got the upfront cost for merchandising, then that's the way to go. But if
right.
you
Which we
don't,
don't. Yeah,
uh, it, yeah, if you don't, you can get a lot more money by offering for prize donations and then auctioning those off. Auctions raise huge money. So that's something you might want to look at.
Yeah, that could be
That's
something.
been my experience in the past. So whether it be vintage game goods or whatever it might be,
Mm.
as donations, you're not putting anything out, but auctions in general, they make a lot more money for the product than what you would have to put it on as a price tag. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can even do silent auctions if you wanted to, but that's it. It's kind of a you don't know what other people are spending, so you may be spending more than you should. But also just auctions in general, where you buy a certain number of tickets, you're willing to put out a $5 investment, and so are 10,000 other people for a product that might typically run retail for 300. So there you gained a lot monetarily where you don't have to put anything out.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I
Because
could bring that up to
I've
the
been
group.
in the
I mean,
t-shirt business. I've been there.
yeah.
I had a silkscreen shop for a while down in Southern California. Some of my clients were, when they were first starting, were Quicksilver and Town and Country and some of those guys. And now they're big names, but it was not until they signed with franchise did they actually go there. So, but they were putting out a lot of money and not getting back, nearly as much as if you look into some of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, quite frankly, you know that I melted down when you told me that you weren't going to do it. So I'm glad to know you're going to be out there again.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
other
okay.
other than financial, you're getting good feedback. Do you think networking and notoriety are are valuable enough to keep it going for now? Because you're building a network locally, and now you're starting to include, um, you know,
Yeah.
companies from outside the local area
I
too.
mean,
So.
yes, I do. I mean, again, it's part of this, what I mentioned just before, even, of like doing things for the significance of them. I know that putting
Mhm.
on a showcase regularly has a huge value when it comes to legitimacy and building things up and so on. But it's a long-term play, right? So,
Mhm.
there's always so much you can just do with the long-term play when you're not getting anything now. It's like it's hard. I don't get as much
Yeah.
buy-in from the people that I could use help from. Um, you know, my wife questions what I'm doing. Like the time that you put in it it's not as easy to do it because there's no like real quick reward for that, right? Um,
Well, the nice thing is you're not spending money for facility right now, right?
No, that's huge. I mean, that really is
Yeah.
huge. I mean, I've got like 3,000 square feet for free, and
Yeah.
100,000 people that come through there. But
Mhm.
again, the questions are, what's that value? Is it what we need? Is it what we want for the industry and for Game Collab and for what we're trying to do? And I mean, ultimately, it's okay. It's not the best, but we're also not paying for it. Like, it's nice to have Comic Con people come through, but they're what's the most that they're going to do? Maybe buy one or two games from the people. If we have digital sales there. I mean, the best we could hope for is that they go and tell like 5 to 20 other people of a cool thing that they saw, right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
multiplier thing, right? And so
Right.
that's about as far. Like, but that doesn't necessarily help those businesses grow. So ideally, at some point, I'd like to have what I've called before the multipliers come to these things, which are investors or publishers or other studios, or actually investors, publishers, and like third party, whether it's software or hardware, come and see what they're doing and create bigger partnerships, right? So if Sony came and walked through there and saw the games that were being made, and if they even just saw one of them that they liked and said, we want you on our platform, here's how we do it, and they created a thing, and then they got on that platform and they helped market them and help make them money and successful,
Mhm.
that's huge. That's how we grow the industry. Not necessarily
Yes.
having people walk around dressed up like in costumes that could be an Uber fan. I mean, that's okay to some degree, but it's not going to. Those aren't the multipliers that a business truly needs.
Mhm.
I mean, to grow,
Well,
right? Anyways,
yeah.
yeah.
But to sort of, you know, jump off of that, it's if we apply that to what we're doing internally and trying to get the incubator up and running, I'm not talking about the UAT Game Studios undergrad hybrid, but I'm talking about, I keep calling it level up. You give me a name and I'll go with that. I think a nugget that we have to be concerned with in that that new space is that you've got to be able to apply what you've learned from the collab. In that, I recall you telling me that having a location was not beneficial because people just simply didn't want to come into work. So, with that in mind, how do we create a space, a tangible space, and have it be productive? We're not going to do it in this day and age. What we need is a support system and a network to be able to support those companies and have them be a part of what it is that we're trying to do. And we do that through online resources. Now, UAT has a beautiful space. They really look great on camera. Part of creating that online presence may be to put a live camera right on the large commons and call that the incubator. It doesn't matter if it's that upstairs facility or not, it's all the same facility. But that's part of bringing in that sort of, ooh, I'm at the office, I can tune in, this is what we're all doing together. We have that online feed, we can talk with each other, we can talk and see what other companies are doing, and however you want to set that up. But I think having that strong online social presence is going to be a powerful element of that. Just a nugget. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, video and live video particularly are very powerful. Um, I
If we're,
yeah.
I don't know about the other the degree programs, what they're putting out. Well, I do, but for games, we're global. And as much as we can get the global community in our doors, then the better off we are. We can't rely on local communities because they're busy. They're not going to tune in or come in or do any of that. But I'm sure that they would love to be a part of a global organization that's constantly networking and knowing what everybody is doing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And wouldn't we all? I would love to go to a location and actually see some fun games being built and things going on, be able to tune in and see the progress reports of other small companies that we can inter support. One of the things that Ken and I were talking about is taking some of these small companies around town and putting together sort of a system where if one of us gets a large contract, the others could gang up on that and just coexist together and support one another.
Mhm.
And I think by establishing that community inside UAT, it would also benefit tremendously what we're doing for our students, our undergrads and our
Mhm.
grads.
Right. Right. I mean, that's what I do with the game collab to some degree. I mean, from what we can get around here, which is not much. But
Yeah.
you know
Well,
that.
my concern for you is if you're going to be running with the UAT or the level up studio or whatever that next level,
Yeah.
is that a conflict of interest? I mean, would you have to integrate your collab, or would you have to just sort of abandon your collab? I mean, that's
Yeah.
going to be
I don't know. That's a good question.
maybe. Well, you've got contracts with a number of our successful folks. Would they be moving into that space and functioning under the umbrella of the company name Collab? I mean, I guess those are all things that have to be thought through,
Yeah.
but that would be a good way to get the space started.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it has to be, I guess, talked with the higher ups about it.
Yeah,
We'd have to see.
because then they're supporting you in your venture, and you're supporting them in theirs. But I don't know if it becomes a conflict of interest as if you were an employee of UAT. Oh,
Right.
that's
Yep.
well,
I mean, we'll have to just see. I mean, I'm somewhat open to certain things, but I gotta live. Like,
right.
is there? I gotta live. Plus, there has to be a certain degree of like, well, basically freedom. I mean, to be able to do this stuff, because I can't have like a lot of things I do is not, would be hampered by having a large structure behind it.
Yeah.
Because that's not how you make these kind of deals and work that kind of stuff out. It doesn't happen with large structures behind, and they can get in the way. So I don't know. There has to be, more looking into it, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah. That said, there's got to be a lot less liability as a fallout too. Possibility.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Being on their facility on the grounds, I don't know how that would come into play with insurance companies either, or whatever. So yeah, a lot to think about. Too bad they can't put it off site.
Well.
Then you could really get into it.
Yeah. I mean.
Hire a manager, and then you could do your co-lab stuff.
Yeah. Well, if I did something at Galvanize,
Yeah.
I think that would be actually really interesting. But I have a feeling they want to keep all their cards close.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with the property next door or what, but.
No, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, so that's like I said, the conversation. We'll find out a little bit more tomorrow. See what they want to do.
Oh yeah, attributing tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear how it goes.
Yeah. Sorry, Sadia. Hopefully, it's somewhat interesting to hear this.
I've been tuning in and out.
She's exhausted because it's like,
Oh.
what time is it over there now?
It's almost 11.
Yeah.
I'm more so exhausted by like the 4-hour drive here.
Ugh. Well.
Oh.
I mean, if you want to go, you're more than welcome.
Okay.
I mean, we can even cut it here if there's anything. I mean, did you guys have anything else?
That'd be great because I got some digging to do on that mind map, put the list together. So.
Yeah, I got some stuff to follow up with as well. So, yeah, why don't we cut it unless you guys have any questions? Oh, one thing I did want to say, I wanted to mention, I sent it in the message just in case you guys didn't read that, but I did change the due dates of all the assignments thanks to Lynn pointing out to me that they were off because of the spring break. So, Sadia, you've been super up to date on handing everything in, so it doesn't really affect you or anything. But just know that I'm giving an extra week for everything because that's what I should have done to begin with. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
I had to fight for that one, but hey, you give me a 0, and I've got my boxing gloves on.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, guys.
Do you want us to comment on other people's posts or what?
No, you don't need to. No, I'm not doing that for this class. We just comment on stuff here, in the class. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. All right. On that note, then you guys will. So on Friday, just again reminder, we're not meeting, but you just work with your teams. And I think Lynn, I'm gonna get in trouble for all this stuff because they're probably all checking my times and my recordings, and they're like, "Why isn't Ben not doing 2-hour classes?"
Well, but you are. Well, we are anyway. So are you. You're out there.
Yeah. So just FYI, just keep working on with your teams on Friday. That's the goal there. I'm not taking attendance, so to speak. I'm just going to give everybody marks for that because I'm assuming that you're working either with your team or on your project. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Cool.
Out there.
All right.
Yep.
Later.
Have a good night. Bye. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
You are currently the only person in this conference.